Good evening. Today is the 7th day of November 2016. And we continue with our series Explorations in Savitri with our brother Alok. We are entering a new section, and to begin, I would like to read a letter from Sri Aurobindo from Tome 2 on Yoga, Tome 1 on Yoga 2. He's speaking of powers and appearances. These are the forces and beings that are interested in maintaining the falsehoods they have created in the world of the ignorance, and in putting them forward as the truth which men must follow. In India, they are termed asuras, rakshasas, pisachas, beings respectively of the mentalized vital, middle vital, and lower vital planes, who are in opposition to the gods, the powers of light. These too are powers, for they too have their cosmic field in which they exercise their function and authority, and some of them were once divine powers, the former gods, Purvadeva, as they are called somewhere in the Mahabharata, who have fallen towards the darkness by revolt against the divine will behind the cosmos. The word appearances refers to the form they take in order to rule the world, forms often false and always incarnating falsehood, sometimes pseudo-divine. Now we are continuing Book 2, the book of the Traveler of the Worlds, in Canto 5, page 162, and there's a little indent after 10 lines, beginning with a thinking puppet.
Yes. But since you mentioned about Purvadeva, it reminds me of one of they are the fallen angels. And it reminds me of another letter of Sri Aurobindo, where he says one of the work that he came to do, amongst many, many others, is to restore their divinity back, to call them back to their original status. And this was a very exacting work. It meant that he had to call these beings who were dark deities fallen from their original status, who had revolted against the law, and to cure them through love, compassion, light, and bring them back to the fold of light. So,
And Mother also speaks
yes,
of she converted 2 of them.
yes. That, of course, is a tremendous, yes.
Tremendous work.
So we have the opening line. A thinking puppet is the mind of life. So mind, when it appears first in living beings, it is not the rational developed mind as subsequently happens through a process of evolution. But this mind is dependent on and subservient to the impulses of life. So what it does is, it gives a thought form to desires. Desires need not have a form of thought, but in the early beginnings, it gives a thought form to the desires, making them even more concrete, even more strong, even more defined. Second thing that it does is, it gives a justification, a ready and handy justification for all the doings or misdoings of the vital. So whatever the heart passions, drives, this mind is there to justify. So it is a puppet. puppet at the hands of the vital. We often see, and that's one of the big challenges of normal life, that to begin to change, we have to have the intellectual honesty first to recognize that there is something that needs to change. Otherwise, the mind is constantly justifying. For example, I get angry because so and so is like this, which means that I can never cure myself because so and so will always remain what the person is. It's almost like becoming helpless. Or, for example, well, I get angry, it's normal, isn't it? Every human being gets angry. Yes, but here we have come for something else, for a different type of effort. So there are various forms of justification that this mind can devise, and the most fatal justification, or the most common justification, but we hard to overcome, is it's normal. It's normal and natural. And when somebody would write this to Sri Aurobindo, he would say, yes, it's normal and natural with reference to lower nature. But we are here to upgrade the nature to another scale. Now, there have been yogis who have continued with the lower nature, just modifying a little, enough to not to be too much obtrusive on the way. And the way they say is that, look, these are things which are part of universal nature and I am not that. So I dissociate myself from that and I say that I am self. So this continues its activity until it gets exhausted. So there are various kinds of justification that this mind gives to movements of life. And therefore, Sri Aurobindo used the word thinking puppet. So, it dances to the tune of life. Its choice is the work of elemental strengths. So, often we hear people saying, well, I want to do this, I want to do that, I like to do this, I like to do that. But what is that I? Who is making this choice? Not the true I. And one of the big challenges again of evolution is to discover the true I, or at least the highest part in it, us, and create a synthesis around it, what Sri Aurobindo speaks of as the true individual. And unless we do that, we'll remain a puppet. So it says, I am choosing, but it's not you who is choosing. There is the sting of the vital, the whiplash of desires, which is making the choice. But the mind doesn't acknowledge. It says, it's my choice, my freedom. I like to live the way I want to live. That's it. So we see how it works. Its choice is the work of elemental strengths. Elemental energies are the bhutas and the pishachas, which we just read, that know not their own birth and end and cause, and glimpse not the immense intent they serve. Now this is a cryptic line, and we will see several such lines. Yet in the cosmic economy of things, they serve a purpose and they have a place. And they have a function also. That we will see. Sri Aurobindo will reveal to us. In this nether life of man, drab-hued and dull, yet filled with poignant, small, ignoble things, the conscious doll is pushed 100 ways and feels the push, but not the hands that drive. Poignant, small, ignoble things. Pondicherry also has quite its own share of that. I don't want to take a name because it will be not right, but there are very nice eating joints here. Poignant, small, ignoble things. And people come all the way to Pondicherry and look for those things and feel very happy. Once, one experience I can narrate among many. In front of Shabda, very nearby, somebody met me and asked, can you tell me where good Vietnamese food is available? Now, I didn't know what to say. This side is Shabda, the other side is ashram. But the man is looking for a good Vietnamese food. So, cryptically, I said rendezvous. Now, actually, rendezvous is actually a restaurant where Vietnamese food is available.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, good. You see, I know all kinds of things because people come and tell me all kinds of things. But in my heart of heart, I was really feeling this rendezvous. I wish it became a rendezvous for him with the divine. The man has come so close. And so, I couldn't help but tell him little bit. He said, anyways, you can go there and have your... So, but human beings feel it's something very nice. And they are pushed. People come all the way to Pondicherry to have wine.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Not the divine. Pushed. They drive from Chennai to have Pondicherry wine.
And drive back.
Drive back
without
without realizing how
Yeah.
close they came to the real Soma, Ananda. So the conscious doll.
And he capitalizes doll.
Yes, capitalizes doll. For none can see the masked ironic troupe. Ironic troupe. It's a game they play with us. To whom our figure-selves are marionettes. Our deeds, unwitting movements in their grasp. Our passionate strife and entertainments seen. I have used this example number of times, and once again it is good to be reminded. So we have the television. So we switch on a television, watch, there are number of channels. So we switch on, some people like the operas, soap operas and crying and all this. So they watch, and after some time they get bored. They say, let's switch to something else. So they start watching some music. Then they say, let's see a movie. Like that it goes on. We don't realize that a similar thing is happening with us. These entities, they want to watch television. So what do? They push us. And you are sitting on the dining table, everything is very wonderful. You are going to have a nice meal. And suddenly the man tastes the first taste. And something is missing, something is less. And he flares up. And obviously the lady is also waiting for her turn. So she comes up. You are like this, never appreciated me. So the man also gives back. And eventually they are fighting. What they don't realize is that they are simply the butt of joke of these entities. The moment we realize that we are being played upon, it's a puppet game. We are their entertainment scene. So after a while, these beings are eating. Meanwhile, while we are eating our food, they are eating our bitterness, anger, quarrel, because they grow fat with that. So when they have had their fill, they say, oh, it's enough. Let's go to some other house. And suddenly, people who are fighting feel exhausted and say, oh, I don't want to discuss. I don't want to eat. And they just move away. Whereas these entities have moved on to some other house, knocking the door. May I come in, please? And there are plenty of people receptive to their game. So this is how they make us entertainment scene. Sometimes, they entertain themselves just as human beings like to watch horror movies. A very perverse kind of drift. So they want to watch horror scenes. So what do they do is that somebody is going, these are real examples, and mother has spoken of this. You're driving a scooter or a car, and they start pushing the driver that drive faster. You'll get a thrill, drive faster. So unknowingly, this person starts getting the thrill and pushes the accelerator more and more. Then at a crucial turn or critical junction, they will just suddenly blind the vision and you meet with an accident. Some people die, there is blood and all. And these entities enjoy. They gather, when people gather around the scene with a lot of excitement, pain, suffering, they enjoy this. They feed and then they move away. So if we go to such scenes, we should be very conscious. Sometimes we are called upon, not only as doctors, but as citizens, to assist someone. So we should be conscious to avoid that excitement and all this. First thing is to quieten it. I remember when somebody met with an accident and one ashram inmate happened to see this person. Now normally, oh, what happened? Let's call this, that. But he made the best response. He went there and said, just be quiet. Call mother. Nothing will happen. First thing. So that these entities which are trying to create all kinds of dislocations, bringing fear, making things worse than what they can become, they just become, they run away because they see something else has come, mother's presence. And then things begin to take a very good turn. The help comes, everything is smooth process. So, we should not become their marionettes. It's important.
Aurobindo Basu said to me this very thing one time. If you see someone in an accident, and he may even be dying and there's blood, he said, the best thing you can do for him is call in the peace.
Yes, it's the best thing and the first thing. First aid. I used to tell this to my students. That first aid is not bandage and tourniquet. First aid is first aid. Call the first one. He is the one.
Yeah.
And then you go about doing your things. So then things become better. You because all the forces start getting aligned. These beings create dislocation. So even if somebody is coming for help, they would just divert and such things because they are active. Whereas if we call the aid of the divine, then things will flow much more smoothly. So there is a lot of occult drama going on. Ignorant themselves of their own fount of strength, they play their part in the enormous whole. Again, we see the same thing. They have their part, they have their role. Times, random accidents. Times, accidents. God's random plan. So the divine uses everything, including things which are, not pleasing to our eyes. Sometimes to pull a soul out of the lower net. So many things he allows so that at some point human beings seeing this play get really done with it. And they turn away, supposing everything was very comfortable and neat in a lower creation. Then most people will say, we are very happy, why should we turn toward the divine? This was at least my experience in Singapore and a number of other countries. I felt this place people like so much and materially it is perfect, but there is no soul there, no aspiration there. And the aspiration is missing because everything is very fine. So why would you aspire? So these things in a certain way, that's why when people come to India, it's good to remember when they come from outside that India is a land of yoga. All your experiences will help you towards yoga if you have the right attitude. So you may even be pickpocketed now. We don't have that. And mother actually says that as someone came to India and was stepping from the boat onto the shore, his favorite pen, golden pen, dropped.
Yes.
And it's a kind of accident. It's doubly precious. It's precious, this gold, and it's precious because someone dear has given it. And it's one of the ways these forces play. Hide things which you need and you are looking for them and you can't find it. They'll put a blinder. This is one of the mischiefs they do it. But this man took a very good attitude. He said, but this is the effect of India. It has taken away something which I held so dear to me. Attachment. So that's an attitude. But normally they play a part in the enormous whole. They have the role to play. Sometimes to make us grow stronger, sometimes to make us grow sincere.
And look how Sri Aurobindo uses 3 words: a puppet,
Yes.
the conscious doll,
Yes.
and marionettes. He shows it to us in so many ways.
And now you see something which you were mentioning in the letter. Agents of darkness imitating light. So in one of Nalinida's observations, notes and reflections, he writes a one-liner. Falsehood is not only that which opposes truth. Falsehood is also that which imitates truth. And this is the worst kind of falsehood because you can't recognize it. In another place in human cycle, Sri Aurobindo says that when these forces that oppose the human journey, I am just paraphrasing the sense, and they cannot, then what they do is they join the bandwagon and finish the light. So they become followers and devotees, to use a term more familiar, and they may join, Christianity, Sri Aurobindo speaks of that. Mother says much more openly. Sri Aurobindo still, he's a gentleman. So he doesn't say blatantly, but Mother has said very openly. He said Christianity is not what Christ preached. Christianity, as it became later on, the later Christianity, it was built, Sri Aurobindo only used the word, it was built on the tomb of Christ. A church was built. He didn't say anything more. Mother made it very explicit that an Asuric being who controls that whole organization. Because, it takes people in their grip. That's how these beings, they don't give freedom. They want grip, lot of strong rules, strict, close thing, exclusiveness. Whereas true spirituality grows in freedom, in vastness, in light, in truth. So they imitate light and becomes very difficult because most people feel that Christ is equivalent to the Pope. And that's why I keep reminding that never put anybody in place of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, because a similar thing may happen here. Yes. Some people may think, someone because either he can speak well or is very impressive or, you never know. There may be some people who say, I have heard people saying, we are carrying forward the work of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. I mean, sometimes I feel it's like a, mosquito because he sat on an elephant body believes that he is driving the elephant. I've used this analogy. Someone says, that part is over. Now we have to carry forward. So I said, yes, mosquito sitting on elephant believes that he is making the elephant walk. This illusion is a good illusion.
And remember that experience of Mother in the cathedral?
Yes.
When she sees all the people praying.
Not to them, which is very nice, beautiful outside.
In the top is a vital spider that's sucking up all the prayers.
And it's in one of the most beautiful churches outwardly if you see.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
She has seen gurus. She spoke of some devotee, but they, like the elephant doesn't bother. Mosquito is sitting there. It doesn't care even. So similarly, she gives an example where one of the devotees took mother to meet their guru, strange devotee, whatever it be. So when mother went there, and as soon as she saw the man, she saw the asura there. And this man recognized. So he was almost, he was furious inside. This all that is happening inside. And he wants to almost pounce. And mother inwardly communicates, you don't worry, you want to carry on your game, you carry on your game, I have nothing to do with all this. So, because human beings have to go through these experiences, unfortunately, before they discover the real truth. People often go to market and earlier, anybody could sell you anything in the name of gold. And you later on recognize that this is not gold. And why we purchased it? Because it was cheap. So the dictum is, if somebody is selling you diamonds for hundreds of rupees, be very careful. In all likelihood, you are buying an imitation thing. Yeah. Divine diamond means give up the ego. That's difficult price. You give up desires, very difficult. But if somebody says, okay, you do this meditation half an hour and I have given you some mantra and rest, don't worry, lead your life, then sure enough, it is. Think 10 times. In all likelihood, it's an agent of darkness imitating light. If it was as simple as that, look at the great ones who have gone the path. Any great life of these great saints and sages, how they have, what all they have not taken upon themselves. Take Meera, Surdas, Tulsidas, many outside, so many saints and sages. Sometimes they had to sacrifice their life in search of the Lord. It's not a joke. You just walk through an easy passage. So there are agents of darkness. We should be very careful. Imitating light. It's all right that we are all co-travelers. But the moment somebody tries to become a guru, 100 times we should be careful. Spirits obscure and moving things obscure. So whom do they take hold of? Earlier we read, wherever there are soulless lives and guideless, where love and light and largeness lack. Now here we are given another clue. Spirits obscure and moving things obscure. Wherever there is lack of clarity, lack of light, they immediately jump in. That's why sometimes people even ask me, why do I become so critical of people wearing girva vastra, saffron clothes? Well, I feel that if you have a light, you don't have to impress by any external means. The sign of renunciation is not in the dress you wear. That may well be an attachment. If you are a renunciate, nothing external has to prove it. You are not here to prove something to someone. If you have it, you have it. It's between you and the divine. And if you don't have it, any amount of external show or sham, posturing will not help. So many times Sri Aurobindo has cautioned us. Unwillingly, they serve a mightier power. This is very interesting. Someone asked the mother about some of these beings who even draw upon people's energy and they grow fatter by that. Don't they some kind of a help the cause? Mother says, yes, through them, some people turn towards the authentic light. And this is the homage they pay to the light. It's not because of them. It is in spite of them or through them, in the sense that sometimes what happens is that you come in contact with a so-called guru and then you suddenly discover a greater light. You remember in Agenda, Sam and Eric, when they came to Mother.
Oh, yes.
And I wouldn't name nice person. He was an ex-student but became a guru. Famous guru.
Yes, we know him. We know of him very well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even United Nations president became his disciple. And these two people had first gone to him. And he kind of, you don't have to go anywhere. Mother is here.
And he had a power.
He had a power, tremendous power. That's another sign of, power is one thing, but displaying power. And they are very quick to show the power. So then when Sam told him, we don't need anybody. We can directly approach the mother. And when he came and told this to mother, mother was very, very happy. She said, it is very nice. You had the discrimination, but many don't have it.
Yes.
The discrimination, that we can approach mother directly. Has she ever said or written anywhere that I will appoint some middleman between you and me? All the time she has cautioned us against it. Yet when people sometimes who are not ready, who are obscure, go through this and come to the divine. So this way they serve a power, because in total obscurity we are not yet ready to receive that light in all its blaze. So we have these small little steps. So Ananke's engines organizing chance. Channels perverse of a stupendous will with a capital W. Tools of the unknown, who use us as their tools. Again, the same thing.
Yes.
Unknown with a capital U. They don't know that they are serving a power. Mother speaks of another in this regard. Often we will see the typical image of the devil is with two horns and a tail. And these are actual entities, adverse forces, whose task is they will sit on the shoulder and tell you, you are wrong, you're a bad person, you're not good, unworthiness. And eventually one is plagued with the idea of guilt. This is their mechanism. And one feels, I am no good, I am not fit for this life, it's much better that, I abandon the effort, lead a normal life. And then they are very happy because they have turned somebody away from...
Or even commit suicide.
And mother says, actually, originally, they were instruments of sincerity. But they have fallen. And they become adverse forces who are constantly pointing to us our defects, our limitations. And then she says something very interesting. She says, but one thing they don't know. And that's why they are in the category of adverse forces. One thing they don't know is that there is grace. They don't know grace. They'll never tell you about grace. They will only show you the defects. Often exaggerate it out of proportion. And I know people who have turned away, even wanted to actually commit suicide because they felt they are unworthy.
Yes.
And of course, in yoga, we know it's a tamasic ego, but the entities behind it are these. So that time we must remind ourselves of grace. And I often remember Tulsi Das, that famous line. This is worth reminding ourselves. Wherever these fellows try to take hold, he says, Ramaso Swami Kusevak Moso. He tells to Lord Rama, what a master, wonderful master. And what an faulty instrument servant I am. And then he says, if you look at me, there'll be no hope. But if you look at your grace, there is always hope. So the divine does not rely upon us, he relies upon his grace. So this is what we have to remember. But these people serve a purpose, and that's what their purpose is, to originally as instruments of sincerity. So when these people tell us something, we should listen but not go into guilt or unworthiness. We should say, yeah, maybe I should have not done this or spoken this. Maybe I should be more sincere, and pray to the grace, but not take that other route. So they have their place and function. Invested with power in nature's nether state, into the actions mortals think their own. They bring the incoherencies of fate, or make a doom of time's slipshod caprice, and toss the lives of men from hand to hand in an inconsequent and devious game. Look at the incoherencies of fate. Mahabharata, Ramayana. Now this king Shantanu is amazing. He's a powerful king. He has wedded to none less than Ganga, the force of purity. And he's the original grandsire of the whole clan. And what he couldn't have achieved. But one day, he loses his heart to Satyavati, the fisherwoman. And she asks him for a promise. Okay, nothing wrong in losing a heart, your heart. But she asks a promise that my son will become the king and not your original Bhishma. And he agrees. Whatever way, ultimately, the turn of events. Now look what happens. If you look at it at one level, the whole Mahabharata starts from that seed. There is a constant cry for the throne because there is no proper heir to the throne. And Bhishma, who was really capable, he refuses because he has taken a pratigya. So all kinds of beings come, and after a gory war, ultimately, the throne is occupied by the right heir. But look at another way, that how that promise he made to Queen Satyavati, which brought in an incoherence of fate, what a downfall of a great dynasty, ultimately led to the wiping away of all the dark Kshatriya forces drunken with ego and pride from the face of earth, to clear the ground for Dharmarajya. So it works both ways. They create incoherences of fate. Same with Ramayana. Why he had to give a promise to Kekai, Dashratha, and Rama goes into the end. This is a total chaos follows. At the same time, had it not been, the entire Rakshasa and Asura world would not have come to an end. So both things they do, they create in life things which we wonder why this happened. They happen because these forces are always at work. Why are they allowed? They are allowed because ultimately they serve a greater plan.
And this we will see later on in
This
Savitri.
we will see. Again and again this comes.
Yes.
So, meanwhile, as long as we are part of the lower nature, they toss our lives. How to recognize them? Against all higher truth, their stuff rebels. Only to tighten force, their will lies prone. They turn to divine only for power. That's why when people come chasing for power, oh, supramental, it will be powerful. Oh, I have seen so and so performing these miracles. Sometimes people ask, can someone perform these miracles? Very dangerous. Because immediately you open the doors to this kind of titanic powers. Because such beings know only power. You know that story of that man who eventually, of course, went away from ashram. How much Sri Aurobindo's compassion and mother's love carried him despite 100 defects and weakness. Of course, there was a good side always. Till one day he couldn't open to mother. He had a lot of doubts, and one day he almost was shouting at the mother horribly. And there are only 2 times when Sri Aurobindo, in fact, once when he has raised his voice.
When he raised his voice.
Once,
yes.
only once.
Once.
And all that Sri Aurobindo said is, who is shouting at the mother, or who is it? Dead silence. The whole force became quiet. He just left quietly. That's the power, because that they understand. They don't understand anything else. They don't understand that she is mother, divine mother. You should open your heart to love. Don't fill your head with doubt. So many times Sri Aurobindo has said, let us. But they understand when this power is manifested before them. There was another instance when somebody came running towards the mother to almost push her. Imagine a scene, mother is standing and from the steps the person is coming, running to her. And the mother just holds her hands like this. This man stops quite a few, before coming near her even. And she later remarked, it's good he stopped. Had he come, he would have been thrown away. The force of Kali had manifested. Had he come near my hands, he would have been thrown away. And there are instances like that. So they understand this only. They don't understand anything else. Inordinate their hold on human hearts. In all our natures turns they intervene. Insignificant architects of low-built lives and engineers of interest and desire. Where are these fellows most active? They will come even where divine is there. Why? To satisfy desire. Mother will give me this, mother will give me that. Satisfy desires. So there these fellows are at work. Not that mother will not give. But is that the only relation that we want to form? And if that is the only thing we are turning to divine only for satisfaction of desire, then these people begin to swarm around. He will describe it somewhere. Out of crude earthiness and muddy thrills and coarse reactions of material nerve, they build our huddled structures of self-will and the ill-lighted mansions of our thought. Constantly, human beings live in a state of misery. Even in a huge house with air conditioned and Rolls Royce and everything, they still live in huddled, low-built structures of obscure thought and desires. This is their personal atmosphere. And if one could feel it or see it, it can be pretty horrifying. Now comes this, what I was referring to. Or with the egos, factories and marts surround the beautiful temple of the soul. So you will see this. Here, because of mother's presence and power, at one point they tried to do it, but it has not succeeded. So you don't see, so much. On darshan days, because before that a lot of dark forces come, so they try to invade a little bit. And they do succeed. Close by Ganesh temple, little bit you can see outside. But you will see it characteristically if you go to the famous so-called temple places. For example, go to Vrindavan, Krishna's place. What Sri Aurobindo has spoken about him. But before you even reach him, or Srinath Dwara, another place of Krishna, you will see a line of market where you will have replicas, you will have prasadam, you will have all kinds of things, dirty, till you reach there. And everybody is after your pocket. And there are plenty who will give it and pick up. As if God will be more pleased if you have got a prasad of 100 rupees and he will not see your heart. But this house surrounding the beautiful temple of the soul. And inwardly, it is an indication of how our life, our inmost being, can be surrounded by all kinds of desires and egoistic satisfactions and pleasure. And the symbol we see in some of these places. Beautiful places. The deity is wonderful. I have had this. Srinath Dwara, I can tell you it's a living deity. Bake Bihari in Vrindavan is a living deity. But till you reach there, you have the ego's market and desires. It's only when you reach there, and if you have the good chance and perseverance or a grace, with me it was a special grace. Otherwise, it is a very disgusting sight. So, artists minute of the use of littleness, they set the mosaic of our comedy or plan the trivial tragedy of our days. A trivial tragedy. What is really tragedy? There is only one true tragedy. Mother says to die without realizing your soul. This is the only tragedy. Most human beings don't even recognize it as tragedy. What are trivial tragedies? At one place, Mother says, human beings make such a hullabaloo about death. So and so died, so and so died. Of course, he understands from our limited point of view. He says, but in fact, there is nothing like death. She says, so often I meet living people who are more like dead and dead who are more alive. Yes. They even meet, but they are not conscious. But we call it big tragedy. And of course, I am not speaking of small little tragedy even by human standards. So, trivial tragedy, arrange the deed, combine the circumstance and the fantasia of the mood's costume. Deed, circumstance, and the mood, they come together to bring the incoherencies of fate. You see, it's strange. People who loved each other end up fighting, bitter enemies. These unwise prompters of man's ignorant heart, and tutors of his stumbling speech and will, movers of petty wraths and lusts and hates and changeful thoughts and shallow emotions starts. This is where we have to be careful. Petty wraths, lusts, hate, these are not at all healthy. Jealousies, fears, they eat away the spiritual substance which is beginning to form within us. Changeful thoughts, fickle-mindedness. Now we think, oh, God is... Then next moment something else, third moment, fickle thought, changeful thoughts. And shallow emotions. The people who just throw their heart just like that, shallow emotions. These slight illusion makers with their masks, painters of the decor of a dull-hued stage, and nimble scene shifters of the human play, ever are busy with this ill-lit scene. You see what happens in a cinema. You may be moved to tears that, oh, the actor and the actress, they are so deeply in love. They are not in love. They are just a role they are playing. Next moment they will be moving on to something else. And these beings use our lives in that way. Whereas true love is something really beautiful. Rarely a actor can bring that feeling. Most of the time it's all superficial, moving from one scene to another, shifting scenes. Ourselves incapable to build our fate, only as actors speak and strut our parts, until the piece is done and we pass off into a brighter time and subtler space. So conscious we have to be, especially of speech. And I remember it's what you said last time so beautifully, and worth reminding ourselves again and again. It is better to remain silent and look like a fool than speak and confirm it. So, strut our parts. They make us speak things which we regret later on. Sometimes not even regret. That's the irony and tragedy of human life. We have spoken. It's an arrow which has gone and hurt and hit. We can't call it back.
And Mother says, If we could just step back for a moment.
What is there?
Just be
Ultimately,
silent
what
for a
is so
moment
important?
and then speak.
Yes.
We wouldn't let things come
Especially
out.
in such moments, you have to be very careful when all this is building up. Quarrels, you are feeling restless, angry. Don't speak. Offer it to mother, go away, call peace, play a game, do anything. Because otherwise, you make it worse. And that energy wants to let out through the medium of speech.
Yes.
And we become instrument. We don't even realize. And then life becomes what it is. So painful that people are just waiting to pass off. It's a tragedy of life. They are just waiting to separate. And they have no choice, no options. They live together unhappily. Or happily unhappily. Simply because of togetherness. So that's not what life should be. It should be beautiful, enriching, true love, compassion, divinity, spiritual aspiration. That should be the basis of togetherness. Thus they inflict their little pygmy law and curb the mounting slow uprise of man. As such, it's a slow uprise. And it's further curbed. Look at how Shubindu. It's not as if you are moving at jet speed. It's a slow process. Even that they curb. Then his true scanty walk with death they close. Just one line, just to reflect upon, and we'll read this line again. This is the ephemeral creature's daily life.
I would like to close with a few words about something Mother said, and it occurred because people were saying, how are you? And someone would say, I'm fine. And Mother said, very often these forces are waiting to see if they can make you less fine. Or I'm not feeling well, and they would say, oh, let's make him feel a little worse. So people in the ashram often say, I'm getting on, which is so neutral they can't do anything. But when we were visiting with Alok one day, he said something that I want you all to hear. And he said, just say, by her grace, I'm fine and nothing can touch you.
Yes. Because that's a fact. Without that, not only speech, even in thought.
Yes.
People often ask, I was progressing very well today. There was such a beautiful aspiration and I broke my leg. I've actually seen this. Precisely because this thought comes. How beautiful. This is enough. It's not how beautiful, it's a gift of grace. But the moment, how beautiful. So nice. I could do this japa constantly. So nice. What a mounting aspiration. Okay. I'll show you their other part. So, constantly, as you said, grace, grace, grace. I think life of at least all of us who walk this path, often yoga is described as walking the razor's edge. So razor's edge means many things. For instance, constant vigilance. It also means life of balance, moderation, because either excess. So I have my own understanding of the razor's edge. And I mean, these are true, what is said there, but I believe that our life hangs between two coordinates. The grace above and gratitude below. You miss out on the one and you fall. The road through which we walk, the rope through which we navigate is fixed on two poles. Grace and gratitude. Gratitude is, of course, the natural result of all true aspiration.
And with that comes humility.
Humility, absolutely. Okay.